Nestled in the heart of historic downtown Wilkesboro, the 1915 offers a wedding experience like no other. Once a federal courthouse and post office, the 1915 combines rich history with timeless charm. From intimate gatherings to full-day rentals, we provide the perfect backdrop for your most cherished moments. With indoor and outdoor options, bridal and groom suites, every detail is crafted just for you. Make your wedding unforgettable at the 1915, Wilkesboro's historic wedding venue, where your story begins.
Closed Captions for Life in Wilkes is brought to you by Deal Insurance Agency of Wilkesboro, an award-winning experienced family, owned and operated agency with service and coverage that goes above and beyond expectations.
Join us on a captivating journey as we explore the charm, history, and vibrant culture of Wilkes County. Discover the hidden gems, inspiring stories, and remarkable people that make Wilkes a place worth knowing and celebrating. Join us now and experience the unique essence of life in Wilkes.
Gerald Lankford, good to see you again, my friend.
Good to see you, Carl. Thank you for me and being here.
For me and being here.
That's right. That's right.
I will do that one more time. You just leave that. Me and being here. I like that. That's a good way to say it.
That's right.
Gerald, we've been together now several times talking about all about the chickens in Wilkes County. And I think we've probably stimulated some conversation with a lot of people. I know we have, because a lot of people have been commenting on your interviews and our conversations. I think it's more of a conversation than an interview,
right,
don't you?
Right.
We're more than getting to know each other. We're actually sharing this, what I consider to be a very important part of the story of Wilkes County.
Right. Absolutely.
From a commerce standpoint.
Absolutely. It's so important to us here, and it reached out all over the country too. Mm. You know, it moved from here to Monroe, and here to Virginia and Harrisonburg and Temperanceville and down to Seguin in Center, Texas, and so all of that had a big influence on those people in those areas.
Right, and of course the chickens just from those areas just spread out everywhere, all over the country, right?
All over the country.
Wow,
absolutely.
Yeah, before we get into today's part, as we've been going through this journey of your life and the lives of many others as it relates to the poultry industry, has that been a little surreal for you as we made the decision to tell the stories in blocks, right? We literally do our visits, and then we edit those, share those, and then come back a few weeks later, and then we do that over and over again. And by doing it that way, has that made it more meaningful for you? And then being able to hear people and what they're saying, has it been a better journey?
It has. When I first thought about this, and when I first talked to Kenny Welburn about it, I had no idea what that would mean to me and my family, my kids, my grandkids. They've all bought into this, and they have all seen it, and they have seen and heard a lot of things that they had no idea that I was involved with when it was happening. Just like the little story about Rex introducing the two-way radio into Junior's car.
Sure.
Very few people knew that. And so many people have said, that was a mark of genius on his part, and started something enormous for NASCAR,
Right.
I mean, there's no end to what that has meant to the race car drivers of today, and to Junior in his day too.
Right, and knowing how that started, and actually being there, that was a special time.
That's a special time. Absolutely.
So what you're talking about is the celebration of not just your life, but the lives of so many other people. we're talking about important moments in Wilkes County history, North Carolina history, American history.
Right.
We could even say world history.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
And-
The three things that you always have to go back to, and that is the merger that Fred Lovett dreamed up of taking place, and that happened here. It also happened a lot of other places too. The people saw that, and they used that as a model, and they brought these small companies together. And maybe that's part of the history of Amazon. I don't know, but anyway, it brought them together in Arkansas, in Virginia, in Maryland, and Tennessee, and it brought them to the point of doing something that was really important for that industry. And then they come along and they start Hollypack, they start Chill Pack, and that revolutionized the way that chickens were processed and packaged and shipped to market, and it changed forever the way that the consumer buys that chicken, takes it home, and cooks it. And then they came up with the other ingredient that you always think about was the study that we done as far as how to market our product, how to make that the number one brand of chicken in the country, and there's the guy that headed that up. It was a guy by the name of Skip Parker, and he knew how to go to the consumer. Whether it be in Chicago or Miami or Washington, D.C. or Baltimore, Maryland. And he would sit down with those folks and find out exactly what they wanted, and they put all that together, and they come up with a marketing plan that worked. And it's still working. Tyson uses that today in all the things they do as far as how they market their product.
A good idea is a good idea.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I went to the store this weekend, and I needed to pick up a few protein items, so I wanted a little steak, and then I needed some chicken. So I'm going over to the chicken section. There's two ladies there and a fella, and we're all looking at the chicken, And I said, hey, do y'all know how this packaging got started like this? And one lady says, what do you mean? I said, well, you remember, and she was an older lady. I said, you remember how it was when you were younger, and where maybe all the chicken was in a bag and it just all bagged together. And she said, yeah, I remember that. This is much better. And then the fella said, yeah, I remember that too, but I'm not, he said, I'm not as old as the rest of you are here. He was younger than that. He's probably in his 30s, you know. I said, so what do you think about the display of the chicken? He said, oh, it looks nice. I said, didn't always look as nice.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was remembering these stories, and then I, did a little selfish promotion there. And I said, hey, you ought to go check out Life in Wilkes. There's a great story about the history of poultry in the Carolinas and in America. Right. But it's when you know things, you know things. When you came in and sat down, we were just, as we were catching up and the lights were getting turned on, cameras getting set, I shared with you an experience that I had a few weeks ago with a friend, and I was talking to him about the holly taters. I said, hey, do you know anybody that does anything close to holly taters like they were in the Holly restaurant? And he says, not really, but there's one place. And then he told me where it was. I won't mention the place, but I shared it with you, and I went there, and then confession time, I was they started out, you get 6 of them, you buy 6, 12, 24, and I asked the guy, I said, do these taste like the real holly taters used to? He said, what are you talking about? So he wasn't from the area, he didn't know. I told him, he said, oh no, why don't you try one? And And I was only going to get 6 of them, right, just to try. He gave me one, and I said, well, if you give me one of the smaller ones, because that's the way I liked the holly tater years ago. He said, all right, he did that. And I was like, oh, I said, so how do you sell these again? So 6, 12, or 24. I got 24.
24, absolutely.
It was just that memory, you know, that memory of that flavor, that taste, and just the idea of, I mean, yeah, the flavor, the memories there. But I think it's more the memories. I think that by the restaurant and, you know, the holly taters and the chicken and the shrimp and all those things that we can't get those anymore at those establishments because they don't exist, right? The holly restaurant. But what great memories.
What great memories.
What great memories.
That lasts right on forever. You know, they go right on.
History is important, don't you think,
history
Gerald?
is extremely important. Absolutely. You know, if we didn't have, just think about the world that we didn't have anything history before yesterday. You know, that would be a terrible place to live. Terrible place to live.
Right.
And so it makes life good. It makes life good. And you know, every bit of history is not good, but I like to remember all the good part of history and forget all the bad part.
That's fair, though, isn't it?
That's right.
I mean,
That's the way to do it.
I don't know that we have to continually judge everyone or even ourselves.
Right.
You know, sometimes with head held down low and bowed in silence, we burn the chicken.
Yeah.
Right. And it don't taste right.
That's right.
And we try to pull off the skin or that burnt part, and it's still just not right.
Right.
Sometimes let's just start all over.
Yeah.
You know, just start all over. Oh my gosh, what great memories! So today we need to talk about that big evolution that we left off with on the last episode. So we were in this transition period of where Tyson was going to become the lead brand, right?
Right.
So why don't we pick up with that and lead us into that a bit with that transition, and then kind of walk us through that period of Tyson, and then particularly how it was affected in Wilkes County.
Right. It all began really with the way Holly Farms came into the 70s and 80s, and we really became of age. We had a lot of things going for us. We had a fleet of airplanes, and Bob Tarkington and Elton Dickey and Robert Phillips were their main guys that run that, and we had our own newspaper, the Holly Happenings. It was a world class employee piece of newspaper. The person that was the editor of that happened to be Linda Lankford, and she ran that paper for a long time, and that paper was published once a month. It won a lot of prizes for being a very good paper. It went to all the growers and all the employees, and it done a tremendous job of communicating between all of those people what was going on.
And that was a lot of people even back then, right?
A lot of people, yeah, thousands. And all that came along, and you know, when you, like I've said before, when you get good and when you get to making big money, somebody out there wants you.
Right.
And Don Tyson, he decided one morning that he was going to buy Holly Farms, and he wrote it on the mirror in his bathroom. And it took him a year, but he got it done. And he bought that, and his company had not been strong in the fresh chicken business as Holly Farms had. His company had been stronger in the cooked part, the nuggets, you know, for a long time there, especially in the 80s. The chicken nugget became king. And at one time, it's an unusual statistic, but at one time, McDonald's sold more chicken than anybody else in the world.
More than KFC?
More than KFC in the form of chicken nuggets. And it was enormous what that done, because they had a good way of marketing it. It was a good product. It was a tasty product.
Were they your biggest customer?
They were our biggest customer. We weren't the only ones that furnished them with nuggets, but we had plants, entire plants, that done nothing but furnished McDonald's with the chicken nuggets.
Wow!
And it was enormous what they were able to do with that. And I don't know the statistics today, but I would bet that they still are one of the top users of poultry, and theirs is still totally in the form of nuggets. Now, other people do KFC. Theirs is primarily in a bone-in product, and breasts and thighs and wings and livers. Don't forget livers. They're the good part. Right. But McDonald's has always worked hard to sell that product in the form of chicken nuggets. And so all of that was transferred over into the Tyson Corporation in about 1989, and that went on, and they continued to be big in fresh chicken. They continued to be in pre-cooked chicken, and they bought beef companies. They bought more. They had some pork companies already. They bought more pork companies, and all of a sudden, by the time the year 2000 got here, they was the number one producer of protein in the world, in chicken, beef, and pork. And it's just a normal how that has continued to be something that's important, because, as I've said before, the good Lord made chicken much more economical than He made hogs and beef, and so people the world over will enjoy and do enjoy chicken at half the price that they have to pay for a lot of other proteins,
Right.
and that's what makes life good for all of us.
When that transition began to take place from Holly Farms to Tyson, you had been there a long time already there, right?
Yeah.
So when that began to change, how did that, I mean, was that something that, the folks in management and people on the line working, were people a little concerned? Were they, it's not odd for people to be concerned or worried when change is coming. They don't know. Or was it more of an exciting situation? How was it? Just talk about that.
It was two-pronged. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were concerned. A lot of people, the Holly Farms family was a group of people that loved each other, and they loved being around each other. And that's the number one reason people work at a place is who they work with, right, and how they feel about those people that's standing beside of them, or sitting in a desk beside of them, or working in a management position beside them. It all depends on how they feel about each other. And when Tyson bought us, there was changes. They had. I was in charge of human resources at Holly Farms. Well, they had somebody in charge of human resources at Tyson. They didn't need to, and so naturally that person won the deal. But I still got a good job out of it. I was a division personnel manager and was able to to work in amongst 7 plants that I had been working with for many, many years, and still had a good job, exciting job, one that I love to go to every day. And that went on all over the company. There was a lot of people that left Holly Farms, left Tyson. They went to other poultry companies, other companies, and struck out on their own another way, and that worked good for them, and that gave them a place to go. It gave them a lot of background, a lot of history that they appreciated and was very valuable in their new job down the road. And a lot of people went on to work at Tyson, and they moved up in the ranks. And I particularly know of one guy who was a son of one of our people here at Tyson. His father was Gordon Miller. His name is Chip Miller, and Chip, he came through high school here and lived parts of the time over in Sparta, and worked at Holly Farms here and in Richmond and in different places. And whenever Tyson bought us, he moved along and moved on over to Arkansas, and ultimately became the senior VP of live poultry at Tyson. And he would never have been able to do all that had he not had a good background from his daddy and his other family and his schooling and his other people that he worked with at Holly Farms and at Tyson. And that went on hundreds of times as we went through the process. And we had people that were upset. We had people that did not like the idea of Tyson buying us. Naturally.
Sure.
That's going to happen. But all in all, it was a good thing for everybody. It's moved along, and Tyson is a major corporation today, a major feeder of people all over the world, and we're in the background of that. We are part of that history. And as you've said many times, the history of where we're at is very important as to what happens to us now and where we get to where we are now. We've got to depend on a lot of things in our background, a lot of people that we stand on their shoulders to do our job, and it makes life so much better that way.
I can't help but to imagine that this journey of going from Holly Farms and then the acquisition with Tyson, and when he wrote this message to himself on the mirror, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
he what is that? Manifest, and he had his vision board, right? He said,
Right.
I'm going to have that. I got that.
Yeah.
But in that getting, the reason that it was an attractive acquisition wasn't just the chicken. It was the people, too.
It was the people.
Because
Absolutely.
the people are the ones who bring the value, right?
Right. They bring the bounty. Absolutely. And that happened with Don Tyson. He's bless his heart, he's gone on, but I guarantee you if he was here today, he would tell you that the biggest bargain he got when he bought Holly Farms was the people that came with it.
Did you have opportunities to talk with him?
I did. He was a very strong person. He was not a large person. His father was in the business, as Fred Lovett's father was in the business, and he done a lot of things that Fred Lovett and the Lovett family here done. His family done some of those things in Arkansas. Mm-hmm. They brought together a group of people to make one company, and then that produced Tyson Foods, that produced the people with the growers and the feed mills and the hatcheries and the processing plants. All of that came together with them.
So they were doing that in Arkansas.
That's right.
at the same time or before or after or within that same period of
within
time.
That same period.
As what was going on in the Carolinas.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that's why it was really a good fit.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And that was going on in Texas. We bought 2 plants in Texas, and that kind of thing, they brought together feed mills and hatcheries and live productions and processing plants, and done the same thing then, and that we done here.
You know, there's always ups and downs in all businesses and all things in life. We all have that, but in looking at that big picture, the big picture of the poultry industry, the big picture of the big chicken story, right? Putting the ups and downs and the aggravations and frustrations and being mad, not being, all of those things that are human, just human behavior, right?
Right.
Can you imagine anything else that comes close to the economic and sustainability impact that the poultry industry has had on Wilkes County, or maybe even the country?
Well, the one that comes to mind first is the Lowe's Hardware.
Okay.
Lowe's Hardware started with a little store just up the street from here, and the first building material they bought was that Mr. Lowe had a deal to buy a tractor trailer load of plywood, and so he didn't have no place to put it, but he unloaded it there on the street, right across from the old library. I mean, it's the library. It's the art center
Art gallery now.
Art gallery now. He unloaded it right on the sidewalk, and by the time the story goes that by the end of the next week he'd sold that load of plywood. So we thought, well, this is going to work pretty good. We'll try that some more, and they did, and then all of a sudden they put together different things in the hardware business, and they bought it. They moved out to another store. Their first store was in Sparta, North Carolina, and then they went to Asheville. Then they went to Durham, North Carolina, and then they formed this company around a center place here in Wilkes County. We can see where it started right here, and that. Up down the street was the Northwestern Bank, and the Northwestern Bank the people at Lowe's and Holly Farms and Carolina Mirror and places like that. They needed money. They needed credit, and they provided that. And lo and behold, it became a large bank, and still the remnants of that is today a major bank in this country.
So the spirit of entrepreneurship, before that was actually a catchphrase, right?
Yeah.
Was alive and well.
Alive and well, absolutely. Yeah. And it has meant enormous amount of difference to the people of Wilkes County. Gave them jobs, gave them opportunities to move along to this place, that place, and my kids. I have a son that works for Butterball Turkey in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I have another son that works for Morris Equipment Company that makes and sells refrigeration equipment for chicken plants, right. and so it gave them an opportunity. It gave all of that an opportunity. My sweet daughter, she's an 8th grade school teacher. No, a 7th grade school teacher, and she probably has the hardest job of any of them and
right.
makes the least pay. But she loves what she's doing.
Right.
And that has given all of them an opportunity to do things that probably wouldn't have had it not been someplace like Wilkes County.
The knowing that you can do things and can do anything, really.
Right.
If you just set your mind to it.
Right.
And do you think that the idea that you know, being in the chicken business for so long and almost like we could compare it to the furniture industry where we manufactured so much furniture and made things. You were, I don't know if it's the right way to say it, but you were making chickens in a big kind of a way.
Oh yeah.
You were making
a
distribution channel for chicken.
Right.
You were building a chicken empire that inspired people to love chicken. Right. You made it mouthwatering. You know, all that from the marketing standpoint.
And you done it economically. You know, well, during all of that process, the cost of producing chicken has continually gone down.
Right.
It's gone down. It's at least, you know, half what it was when I was a boy.
All right. So let's talk about that other side of that coin. So, because we've talked about the scale of production of the farmers themselves. So I think maybe from our first show together, we were talking about the relationship that processing would have with the farmers.
Right.
Starting out with just backyard farmers, right? Just having chickens, you put them in the coop, bring them in, and we'll buy them. Right. So you needed more than that.
Right.
So then you got chicken houses, and then there was a big chicken houses.
Yeah.
Providing chicks, but the scale of economy was fluctuating. One year you might make money as a farmer, the next year you might go broke. It just kept on going up and down, and that was nerve-wracking for everybody, I'm sure, because from the farmer's standpoint, you got to feed his family.
Yeah.
From a processor, you got to have chicken to sell.
Right.
So then you come up with an idea of leveling the emotional and financial playing field for the farmers.
Right.
So they're able to make good money, right?
They're able to make enough to keep them sustainable through a long period of time.
Has that continued? So now as we talk about chicken being less than to process maybe than it was when you were younger, when I was younger. So are farmers, is the future still good? Are the people who are raising the chickens now, are they still able to make money?
Yeah, absolutely. You can drive around this county and you'll see chicken houses, 400-foot chicken house with all the computers it takes to run them will cost about $1 million. And you'll see them going up all over. And they've spread that out not only in Wilkes County, but in surrounding counties around us. And so all that, it takes a lot of capital to make that go. That all capital is with the farmer. That's the big corporations do not get into that. They let the farmer have the resources it takes to put the house, to put the chickens on the ground, that kind of thing, and then to collectively they're able to give a good living to themselves and to the farmer both, because of the scale of economy that it works so good with.
Well, one of the things that you said when you opened up that line of thought there, Gerald, was that the chicken houses have computers. They didn't used to have computers.
They did not have computers.
Oh my gosh! So that's part of the scale of efficiency, and it's that modernization aspect of it.
Right.
So as long as we have people, and we have people having families, there's going to be more chicken eaters, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Protein of whatever kind, chicken or however you get your protein. So that's the future.
That's the future.
And
we're primed and ready for that in Wilkes County, in Arkansas, in Virginia, and all over the country, all over the world. All over the world. The chicken industry in Australia looks a lot like the chicken industry in America because of what took place here in America from 1900 to 1980.
Quite specifically in Wilkes County, America.
Right.
Yeah. That's amazing. So the land of opportunity when it comes to chickens, it's not going anywhere. It's just augmented, it's changed, it's evolved, and that's the way it is. There's a different label. There's a different label on the package, on the door, but it's still the same thing happening.
That's right. That's right.
How do you feel about that? Knowing, let me frame that just a little bigger, so to be fair with you. How do you feel about it? Taking into consideration in your response from as a young boy, and how you saw chickens being raised, and then you somehow got involved with the business aspect of it, but watching that whole thing and watching the evolution, watching the science of it all change, watching the human dynamics. I mean, just seeing that entire thing evolve. I mean, how do you express that to people? And when somebody says, Gerald, what do you think about the chicken business? I mean, how does that internally feel for you?
It feels so good. You feel that it's important. It's like life itself. We depend on food that the farmer produces. We depend on the corn and the soybeans being produced by the farmers in large amounts, and that goes to the chicken, and that goes to raise the chicken, and the chicken goes to feed us and feed the rest of the world. And to me, it's just really, really important. And I always felt that it was something that I felt extremely good about all the time that I worked in the business. And to this day, I feel so good about what's happened in our industry and how it has done good for the people that we have. It's a basic need product. And maybe the other companies, the Amazons and who's ever, maybe they're doing the same kind of thing. But I don't get that feeling about them that I get about Tyson Foods or Purdue Foods, Purdue Farms, or other poultry companies that I get when I think about them.
Well, I think there may be two different things. One's in the shipping business, and one's in the growing and making and feeding business.
Right.
So there is a difference in that, right? I mean, there are all sorts of things that people talk about, and being as organic as we can, be eating from the earth as much as we can. But there's complications to that. The fact that all takes a lot of work.
Right.
And we all get excited, about growing all of our own stuff and doing it all on our own, but then we just don't follow through very often. So having that reliable source of quality food is a fundamental, right?
Right. Right. It's a fundamental need that we have as human beings.
What's the future look like?
I think it looks great. I think that it looks good. The people, what the consumer wants is a product that they can put on their table without doing any work on it. And that is happening. That's taking place. And I think that will continue to be that kind of thing.
I had picked up some Tyson chicken and had a recipe for putting it and cooking it in the air fryer.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me give that a try. And I did it, and it was great.
It's good.
It was great. I mean, it's just one of those things that was not complicated to do, and I think we have a love affair with chicken. I don't think that's going anywhere, is it?
I don't think that's going anywhere at all.
Gerald, this has been an incredible journey. We're into 43 minutes now, and what I was hoping that this series of visits would do would give you the opportunity to share your story about the poultry industry from the beginning standpoint, even before you were born,
right,
to up to where we are now, and now you're at a point in your mid-80s of where you get to look back a little bit, right? And celebrate that. I also know you to be a person that's still very much involved in the community. Your chicken queues are notorious for early sellouts, and don't be late, and you keep on serving the community. I wanted us to wrap up with this idea, and just for everybody watching, we do have one other show that we're going to do. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got all this great memorabilia from the poultry industry going back long time. So Gerald and I are going to sit around, and Gerald's going to share all of his knowledge about these things. So it's going to be really interesting. So make sure you don't miss that segment. But as we're here and kind of wrapping up our journey on the poultry side, what are your closing comments, as if this is the chapter, if you will, like if this is the master class? So you watch all 5 of these, you get a really good feel about the poultry industry, not only just in Wilkes County, but in America. So why don't you kind of wrap us up and your summation on where we've come from and where we're going, and how you feel about that.
We started with Mr. Eller and his few chickens on 10th Street that he bought from the farmer, and he processed them and sent them out of here and sold them here. And we went on through all of that, and we watched Holly Farms come to being, and we watched that go into Tyson, and it is such a journey. It is such a journey. I feel so honored and so humbled. The good Lord has put me in a place that has been enormously rewarding to me. And I can't help but tell everybody that I am so humbled and thankful, and the good Lord has put me there, and I think I've done some good. I think a lot of other people have done a lot of good too, and I feel honored to be part of that. And it's been quite a journey, and the journey's not over yet. I've got a few more footsteps, and we're doing a lot of things. I still do a lot of volunteering at my church and in nonprofits in this community, and it has given me an opportunity to do all those things, and it has been such a rewarding career and time for me. And I thank you, Carl, for providing the conduit that we can move this from here out to all the people that's interested in. And it's been a real joy.
Well, Gerald, thank you so much. I consider this to be one of our enjoyable episodes, and more so than that, I think it means a lot to a lot of people.
Right.
Gerald Lankford, thank you for being Gerald Lankford.
Thank you, Carl.
May the chickens live long.
Right.
Well, at least 18 days.
18 days. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you for spending time with us on Life in Wilkes. We value you as a viewer and appreciate when you share the show with your friends and family. Be sure to bookmark our channel and join us again on the next episode of Life in Wilkes.